I said, what can I do this week to be okay? I was like, you know what? I am getting back into things that I love. I want to give something another chance. If you're new here, I feel like last year was a horrible reading year for me, but it also was such a good reading year because I found my soul books. I fell in love with V.E. Schwab. I stopped reading books that I felt like I had to read just to fit in and not have FOMO. And so I stopped reading some like booktalky, viral, contemporary romances, and I just like stayed in my lane of what I knew worked for me. So I haven't read a contemporary romance in a long time, and I thought this week, no pun intended, let me give a second chance to romance. And so that's what we're gonna be doing. We're gonna be hanging out this week, doing some fun things, and I am going to try romance again. I don't know if I will or if I have posted a New Year reset kind of like goals video that I filmed. Sometimes when I spiral and I film videos and then I edit them, I am like, ugh. I'm not sure if that's out in the universe, but if it is, it's here. One of my goals for the new year was to read my physical TBR. So I started doing this thing that I think my friend Mary started, or I saw from my friend Mary's reading diary last year or whenever she did it. She would read 10 books off of her physical TBR before she got to buy a new one. So I have been incorporating that in my life, and I've been trying to read my physical books just because I need to read them and I'm not trying to overconsume as much as possible. So I've just been making it a goal to read books off of my physical shelf and stop going to the bookstore when I'm sad to buy new books. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I want to fall back in love with romance, and I also want to read some of the books that have been up on my shelf for a really long time. And I kind of am eyeing 2 books for sure. I'm about to go read with one of my besties, Ayana, and funny enough, one of her like favorite books is Out on a Limb. And I have had this for so long that I have the indie out of print copy, and I've never read it, but I know everybody and their mother like loves this book. I think I'm gonna start this video with Out on a Limb. All I know about this book is that it's an accidental pregnancy, and I feel like I've only read one pregnancy trope book maybe 2. I read Ready or Not because the cover was stunning, and I did not like that book at all. I should have just DNF'd it, but I basically skimmed the whole thing. And then one of my favorite books ever is called The Language of Flowers, and it is an accidental pregnancy, but that probably is my least favorite part of the book. So I know accidental pregnancy is like you either love it or you hate it, and so far with the books that I've read that have that trope in them, I don't love. So this will be a good, third time's the charm experiment to see if I really do love accidental pregnancy or not. But yeah, this week we are attempting to have a wholesome little week and to fall back in love with reading romance books.
She said I got knocked up by a pirate. She's funny.
Sally, I'll get another round. It's the next day, and I do have semi sort of a first impression of Out on a Limb. I started this yesterday and I went and read with my friend Ayana. ADHD, I have a hard time multitasking and reading, and I was with a friend and we were yapping and we were out in public. So I was like, if I can just get to page 20, I'll be okay. And I actually ended up getting to page 52, and I like this book a lot. I knew this was a disabled main character love story, which I appreciate so much. I think the author said it best, and she said it's about challenging expectations and overcoming obstacles. It's disabled joy, which we all need to see more of if you ask me. I can already just tell I'm gonna love it. The book opens up with a little ooh, which I guess I should have seen, but it's not that I don't like, smut in a book. I feel like because I'm kind of like falling out of the contemporary romance trap. And I guess my thing, and I've said in the past, like the problems that I have with contemporary romance is that I feel like they all follow the same formula, and I'm just like exhausted by it. Insta love, smanging, third act breakup. The pattern that they follow, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, the older and wiser that I am. And so I just have a problem with that flow that a lot of authors are doing. And so I think that's why I'm just like exhausted from contemporary romance. So I guess my search and why I'm going on this journey is I'm hoping to be refreshed and to read something a little bit different to spark my joy again. I don't know, but I'm feeling good about this book. I have high hopes. It's off to a good start. Also, I don't have a problem with spice at all. I love reading books with spice. It's not like a bad thing for me. I'm just not used to it right at the beginning of a story, but now that I thought about it, I'm like, oh, of course it's gonna open up with that. Really liking the characters, and I literally cannot wait to read today. I have a few things I need to do. I need to go grocery shopping, I need to walk Howdy, and I also need to give him a bath ASAP. So we're just gonna have a nice, chill, cozy errands day, and then my husband and I have a date tonight. So let's read a little bit, let's go get our errands done, and I cannot wait to update you guys as I read today. Listen to what I just read. She's talking about her body and being a woman and self-confidence. I simply can't. She says, I, like most women my age, have learned to hate myself just enough to appease others. If you're too fond of how you look, you're told you'll be unlikable, labeled as self-involved, egotistical, or stuck up. But it's purposeful, pitting us against one another. Consumerism demands we remain unsatisfied with our appearance. If we all liked ourselves, dozens of industries would crumble like Babylon. We have to want a solution to whatever or however many problems plague us in order to keep those factories running, to keep money in men's pockets. That is powerful. When the female main character simply gets it. She simply gets it. And I am connecting with her so deeply. I just really appreciate how emotionally aware she is. has restored my hope and my faith in what a romance book can be. Out on a Limb opens up and you're immediately introduced to the female main character named Win. Win is dressed as a pirate at her best friend's Halloween party, and all of a sudden this really tall, cute pirate walks in. One thing leads to another and they hook up on Halloween. A few weeks later pass and Win is pregnant. She realizes it had to have happened on Halloween, and she has her friends introduce her to this guy, his name being Bo. And the story just goes from there. Bo decides to co-parent with Win and be in the baby's life. And since it was a random hookup and they don't know much about each other, they decide, hey, we are gonna work on being friends. We're doing this together. Let's kind of know one another. We're raising a human together. And so they decide to work on their friendship for their child, and from there their love blossoms and blooms, and it is the most sweet, tender, realistic, soft and safe love I feel like I've read in a really long time in a romance book. I feel like the best way to describe this book is it feels like a Sunday with the windows open. It feels like the breeze is blowing, you have your favorite warm drink, and everything is not perfect, but it is beautiful and right in the world. That's just what this book feels like. It is, and it's been so beautiful to see them decide to become friends and from there have like a love start. I really like the female main character, Win. She is so sassy and funny, but also so herself and so emotionally mature. And the main male character, Bo, is so refreshing. He is so soft. He is like overly good to a point where you don't believe it, but it's like genuinely who he is. And this book is just making me feel all of the things. But I'm thinking this has no third act breakup, and if it does, this genuinely might restore my faith in romances. I have finished Out on a Limb. This book restored my faith in romance. It was so sweet and tender and such a special, slow, perfect story. I cannot recommend this book enough. Disabled joy, disabled love needs so much more love, and I am so glad I finally picked up this book. I cannot believe it's been sitting on my shelf for year. I would say just a year, but it might be plural. I think it's been on there for years. So many of my friends love this book. I'm so glad I finally picked it up. This is definitely going to be one of my favorite contemporary romances, and it's just a really special, sweet, feel-good story. I think I'm going to rate this either a 4 or maybe like a 4.5. So if you see this video and you haven't read it, save this book for when you just need a warm hug, a pick-me-up, a reminder that love is beautiful and tender and so, so good and special. Ugh. Hello from New York City. I feel like this is my second home because I have had so many layovers here this year. I lived in Chicago for almost 6 years, and I do miss the winter so, so much. I just feel like because of that time in my life, in my early 20s, living in Chicago, it's very nostalgic for me, and I love California weather, but there's just nothing like being moody in the winter and taking the train in the winter and walking around in the winter. I don't know, it's just nostalgic. So I have been loving my time here so much. And I feel like I've kind of perfected my little New York routine. So sorry if it feels like I'm a little bit of a creature of habit, but I really am. I don't have a lot of time today. My pickup is in the early afternoon, so I am gonna go out and explore as much as I can. I did start my last book for this video. I started it on my flight over here yesterday, but when I could, I read The Two of Us, and I'm about 75 pages in. I already really like this book. My favorite tropes in romances are second chance romance and friends to lovers. And if I'm allowed to ask for childhood friends to lovers, I am sold. Those are my favorite tropes of all time. This is all of them. It's a second chance. They're childhood best friends. I feel like it's gonna be the emotional, devastating kind of romance, and I like more heavier books and books with like a little bit more heavier stories. I just feel like as somebody who has had a heavier life and struggles with mental health, I just connect a lot more to the characters and to the story when there is sadness and grief. So far, I'm not really far in. I'm just getting to know the main characters. It is single POV, but it goes back and forth between then and now. Then being when they were all growing up together. And I think that with the flashbacks, that's gonna lead into showing what happened between the two main characters. You get to see the now timeline where they reconnect. You know, we figure out what happen between them and what's gonna happen moving forward. The main character, Mara, is living in New York in her late 20s and is a workaholic. Her dad is really sick and she goes back home to this small lake town to take care of her dad. And then the main male character, Ambrose, is still living in his childhood home across the street. You're just getting to know him a little bit more. Not much yet to update you on besides the fact that it has some of my favorite tropes and it's a more like heavier kind of romance. But for now, I'm gonna have a really cute, wholesome, rainy morning here in New York City. I'm all back from my big adventure in New York. I got one of my favorite lattes. This is a Spanish latte. I hope it tastes good. Let's try. Oh yeah. And then I got some Swedish candy. I am unfortunately addicted to Swedish candy. I'm allowed one new release a month, and so I am so excited about this. I bought Deep Cuts. I've been hearing really amazing things. It's the most stunning cover. I went to go get it at Barnes, and they only had the Barnes & Noble edition, and it is so ugly compared to how stunning this cover is. So I got it here today at McNally, and then I actually forgot my little book update. I ended up getting about 95 pages in, so I only read like 20-ish pages. I will say, I think I have a problem sometimes when books have to do with childhood and they flash back to childhood, because then the author is obviously writing from like a children's perspective, so it feels a little bit YA youngish. So I'm kind of feeling that a little bit when she flashes back to like middle school. They're kids, so they're gonna talk like kids. And so I've just noticed that that. What was the other book I read? Oh, Pictures of You. Pictures of You, she was an adult, but she like had a car accident, and so her mind was like when she was 16. Just when it feels younger, if it's not like a young adult book, it's just harder for me to like connect. But even though that's hard, when I get pulled back into like the now timeline, it does make up for it. So it's not too bad, but the flashbacks to like childhood are not my favorite, but I know it's part of the story and I know it will pay off. So I read a little bit. I'm still really liking it. I'm gonna read a lot today on my flight because it's probably gonna be like almost 6 hours long. So I'm sure I will have a nice update for you tomorrow. Last but not least, I dream about this wrap. If you're ever here, it's called Wolf Nights. Get the Howling wrap. It's like chicken, melon, pickle. I don't know. It's perfection. I've officially finished The Two of Us. I didn't give as many updates with this book because I feel like this book is a little bit slow, and as you are going through these flashbacks of their childhood and present, the story like reveals itself from there. So I feel like this is a book that was just hard to explain without spoiling things, but I really did enjoy this. It didn't follow that cookie cutter, fluffy, copy paste setup that I feel like a lot of romances follow, which was so refreshing. I did not expect both books in this video to be refreshing, but they really were, and I had no idea going into this or when I picked them out that they would be. I've just had them on my shelf for so long, and I know so many people love both, so it was very exciting to just read a really special book. If you like love stories that are deeper than just simply romance, this book is for you. It was so centered around friendship, and from there found family, and there were a lot of heavier topics in this book that I connected with. It was a slower, more character-driven book where I feel like you just need to read to see for yourself. I am gonna give this one a solid 3.5 stars. I cannot even express to you how excited I am that I picked out two amazing books to re-spark, to refresh, to revamp my lost love for reading romance. I read two amazing books and I truly recommend them both. Out on a Limb was so good, so sweet, and so tender. And The Two of Us is a heavier romance that is more than just romance. And I cannot get enough of both. I will see you very soon on another video.